Welcome to an ignorant opinion on a subject that I find mildly amusing. Before I start, I want to make it clear that I'm not sponsored by any of the retailers or manufacturers featured. I've simply done what anyone else would do when looking for a bike, especially if you're just starting out. Most of the bikes featured on this list are rim brake for ease of maintenance and upgrade. All of them are made from an alloy due to carbon fibre costing, in my opinion, far too much for someone just getting into the sport. With that said, let's get to it. Price of bikes. Despite the initial disclaimer, the first bike from Ribble has disc brakes. I wanted to show you what you could get for your money if you went down the mechanical disc route. For just under £1,100, you could get this fully aluminium, mostly Tiagra 10-speed bike. To compare, Ribble do a similar spec steel frame with rim brakes for £1,300. If you just want the frame, that will set you back £1,000. It does work out cheaper to buy a complete bike, but we're still talking over £1,000. On a side note, if you want to change the colour of your bike with Ribble, they charge another £300 for the privilege. This probably explains why black, white and grey bikes are now so common. If you want a unique ride, it's going to cost you. Next up, Canyon introduced the first carbon fork on the list at £1,149. Well, at least it's blue. It comes with a full Tiagra group set. They're not saving money on the cranks or brake calipers, but it's still over £1,000, which most of the cost will be the group set. The down tube has internally routed cables, but the top tube doesn't. Specialized are the first manufacturer to offer something a shade below £1,000. It's not a boring colour, so points for that. Technically, this is 2 steps down from the Canyon because the group set is 8-speed Clarus rather than the previous 10-speed Tiagra. It's also not a complete group set because they're using Tektro brake calipers, but at least the cranks are Clarus. They haven't used the fancy chain rings, but it's a start. Both sets of cables are internally routed. Merida offer a similar spec bike for £885, which is now starting to come into the realms of affordability on a budget. This isn't a full Clarus setup as they're using FSA cranks, which seems to be a popular money-saving choice. My Boardman had this setup and cost less than this, but we'll get there. Again, both sets of cables are internally routed. Scott offer their Speedster entry-level bike for £849, and for £40 less than the Merida, their shifters take a real drop. They've used Tony shifters, which use a thumb shifter on the inside of the hoods. I'll insert a video here of what a Tony shifter looks like. These shifters aren't bad, but they're just not as convenient or look as high-end as the double lever version. These shifters aren't bad, they're just not as convenient or look as high-end as the double lever versions. I'm not being picky, but for over £800 I'd expect Clarus. The rest of the gear mounted on here is similarly low spec. The rear cassette is 7-speed and the brake calipers are Tektro. Now, I would happily set up and ride a bike with these components, but I wouldn't spend over £800 to do it when you can see what else is available for the money. Case in point, Trek. I do like that shiny colour. £800 gets you Clarus shifters and an 8-speed cassette. You spend £50 less and you're getting sexier kit plus a very good looking bike. It's not full Clarus, but the cranks are Shimano and who really cares, look at it. The cables aren't internally routed like they are on the Scott, but that makes maintenance easier and the bike still manages to look better despite that. For 50 fewer pounds, Giant give us internal cables and almost full Clarus. It's just the brake calipers and the cranks that don't match. But now we're entering the realm of realistic affordability. Last time I checked, Clarus shifters on their own cost between £110 and £130, so they aren't a cheap component. From about 2014, these shifters were used on 8-speed entry-level road bikes, which was an upgrade from the Tony shifters. I have a set of 9-speed Sora shifters, which you've seen in the video, that are in the Tony style, so the double lever technology has moved down through the group sets. Look at the shifters that are provided on the bike you want to buy. The rest of the group set is a secondary consideration. Don't shout at me in the comments, but you know it's true. It'll become apparent as I move through the list where the threshold is, if Shimano is part of the cockpit. Boardman proved this point at £575. This model replaced the Road Sport that I bought, and it doesn't have the internal rear brake routing, but you do get 8-speed Clara shifters and derailleurs. The brakes are Tektro and the cranks are FSA, but you are getting a carbon fork. For me, this is probably it when it comes to a brand new budget bike. Does it look as good as some of the more expensive models? Maybe not the Trek, but it's blowing the Scott out of the water for me at almost half the price. If you're lucky, you may even be able to pick this up with £100 off in an end of season sale. There are the added benefits of being able to buy this in store, and it will have a warranty. But wait, there's more. I'm now going to move on to specific retailers that you may consider and one you might not. Wiggle. Every triathlete's friend. Brand X is a no-frills budget make, and it does have a steel fork. And I'm going to compare this to the Scott. For £315, this Brand X comes with 7-speed Tony shifters, Tektro brakes and Shimano derailleurs. The setup is almost identical to the Scott, which is almost 3 times as expensive. The Scott is a kilo lighter though, so it must be worth it, although you could upgrade the fork with the money saved. For this price, you could even strip it down and repaint it if you really wanted to make it unique, which you probably wouldn't do if you pay more for it because you'd be too afraid of damaging it or avoiding the warranty. I would rather ride this than the Scott because to me the Scott says you have more money than sense. Decathlon have their own brand supplier, which is currently Triban. The original price was £400, reduced to £350. Carbon fork, 8-speed with Shimano components. The shifters are microshift, which have a slightly different shifting action to Shimano, but I understand it's just as good. For beginners, I would probably stop here. I'm now going into very heavy and possibly uncomfortable territory. I'm showing you these because they are an option, but don't be surprised if your local bike shop won't touch them. Proper cyclist types would say the following are destined for landfill. Having ridden something similar in the past, I would argue they just need the brake levers upgraded. £230 is serious budget range. If you watch my bike build series, you know I couldn't build a bike for this unless some of the stuff was free. It's heavy at 14 kilos, and you'll notice the shifters are on the handlebars. It's a more convenient location than the down tube and will inspire more confidence in less experienced riders. But the brake hoods are positioned like a pre-2000s race bike, forcing you to ride in the drops more, but can put many people off who would prefer a more upright position. The brake levers may also feel spongy, at least they did on the crappy bike I tried, so I would upgrade them to the Tektro levers I put on my build. There are a range of these bikes, but be aware that they may not come in your size. I'm too big to ride these, else I may have given one of these a go. You'll find this a lot at this price range. If you're not average, you won't fit. As a comparison, using the very brake levers I'm on about, here's the Triban that would suit more people, and it's £300, making it a more affordable option. I have a conflicted relationship with Sports Direct, and it's got now to do with the football. You can get some decently priced running kit that will last, and some branded base layers that are excellent. You can also pick up some items that are of middling quality, so consider your purchases carefully. This Pinnacle for £350 is similar to Wiggle's Brand X bike, but does have the rear brake cable internally routed. It has 7-speed Tony shifters, so it's not bad for the price. It's still cheaper than the Scott. The last offering is a Ceres for £269 with 8-speed microshift shifters and internally routed cables, putting it slightly over the Decathlon Triban model if you care about internal cables. I'm not making any recommendations, I'm just showing you what is available, and if you have your own maintenance skills, you can improve or fine-tune something that others wouldn't even consider. You do get what you pay for. but sometimes you get a bargain. And if you're not too picky or bothered about what others think, you can come away with a result. Always make sure the bike you buy fits you, so study the sizing guides. I hope that was helpful in one way or another. There are other bicycle retailers and manufacturers I haven't covered. Please leave any suggestions in the comments to help out anyone new to cycling make their first purchase. Let me know if you've ridden any of these bikes, especially the last few on the list, and your experiences, both good and bad, of the cheap end of the bike market. Please like and subscribe, keep training, and I'll see you in the next video.